Welcome, everyone. We're going to cover a couple of new modules, and we'll talk about two. It's actually three, so hang in there. You're going to have questions, throw them in chat, and we'll have plenty of time for Q&A at the end, and I'll unmute the microphone. So what we're unveiling today, what we're announcing to the market is Clarity Simulator, which is your crystal ball, right? It's your crystal ball. How do you leverage what you know about your client's business in order to help them see the future, help them understand what could be possible, and importantly, what the impact of taking action will have on their revenues, net income, and transferable business value. So there are two, kind of three new business advisor tools. And let's take a step back. Let's talk about why you would use Simulator, okay? You're going to use Simulator for business development and for strategic planning, and we'll walk through those together. This is a tool that is ideal for the broad spectrum of professionals who are in our community: management consultants, business coaches, reformed EOS implementers, CPAs, M&A professionals, exit planners, wealth and insurance advisors who are interested in having the exit and value conversation, and fractional CFOs, a rapidly growing segment of this community. It is available, Simulator is available after level 1, but there won't really be any data in there. It's fed by data from level 2. So you got a screenshot here of level 2 showing you the buttons where you'll be able to access these two new modules, Simulator and then Leadership, which we'll touch on after we're done with Simulator. Simulator has two tabs: financial projections and strategic capacity and price. Talk about why that's important in a sec. And the Leadership module has leadership accountability scoring. It's all in one place. It's really a report, a scoring report, okay? Why would you use Simulator? There are a lot of use cases, okay? It gives you the ability to benchmark revenues, to benchmark profitability, to benchmark margins against the industry, and to benchmark growth against in a variety of different ways. We'll get into in detail. We're going to be able to project future growth and value, have conversations. We got into biz dev, have conversations about value sufficiency, and run what if scenarios. So there's a lot of power here, guys. It's elegant on the surface, but it is incredibly complex. It's the old iceberg, incredibly complex under the water. So I'm going to highlight the conversation about strategic capacity and price, strategic capacity and transferable value. And we want to talk about transferable value at your current and at a projected future strategic capacity, right? So if we work together, Madam Business Owner, and we increase your strategic capacity by 10 points, here is the impact it'll have on the value, the transferable value of your business, and frankly, on the transferability of your business. And what we're looking at is the value or price that the private capital markets would apply to this business after completing due diligence, okay? We take a great tool like BizEquity. BizEquity calculates a value for a business. That might be the value for insurance purposes, right? We want to ensure that the totality of value. But what BizEquity doesn't do is account for the discounting that would take place driven by the risks that are uncovered during the due diligence process. Growth Drive and our valuation tool, why do we say it makes top tools like BizEquity actionable? Because we say, okay, let's right size for this calculation of value to the market. And the two values, our value at top capacity and a BizEquity calculation of value, DCF, will be within horseshoes and hand grenades. Right? But then we say, yeah. However, you have company-specific risk, and that risk is going to be rewarded with discounts by the market. So value versus transferable value. And ask yourself, what do your clients care about, right? If they build a plan based on this top statement, just on value generally, they're setting themselves up for heartbreak. If they build a plan based on transferable value, which is a conservative view of value, they may even overperform, right? Overshoot their goals, which is great. So where does the Simulator fit in the context of the Growth Drive methodology and process? I'll go through this real quickly, refresher for you. My name's George Sandman. I'm the founder and CEO of Growth Drive. I've been working, this is my 13th year in this market, 31st year as an entrepreneur, everything from, starting a business with a business plan under my arm and raising money from families and friends to very sophisticated Series C funded businesses, buying, selling, etc. A lot of experience. Most importantly, I've worked with over 1,000 of your colleagues on thousands and thousands and thousands of cases. That experience is in this book. It's a methodology and a process learned from you and your colleagues. And what we want to get at is understanding strategic intent, right? Why would a CEO talk to you? Why would they hire you? And there are 3 stats, and a lot of you can recite them. 62% of CEOs want to grow. 21% want to make their business easier to run. 17% are preparing to sell, only to find out 8 out of 10 times they don't have the value they need to fund their family's wealth plan. And that comes from analyses, interviews with over 50,000 CEOs. Based on that work, describe, right? To describe, we won't go overboard and say invented, but describe the 3 dimensions of business growth. You want to grow your business? We're going to start by creating dimension 1, predictable profits and cash flow. Then we'll move into the dimension 2, predictable, sustainable growth, right? Dimension 1 is a company that's easier to run. Dimension 2 is an efficient company that can grow sustainably, all of which does the heavy lifting for getting us into predictable, transferable value, which is the ultimate measure of business success. What Simulator is going to help you do is have this conversation right here, right? Our most downloaded graphic in the community. We want to lead a conversation, not about why is the business only worth 3.4 million, but what would it look like? What might we do to get it to $20 million? And what would that look like in the future? And how do we benchmark against our peers, right? We want to predict and benchmark growth. So 2 use cases. I'm trying to get my business to $5 million of net profit, but I've been struggling, but the business is struck, but I'm not sure how, but I really need help. Another use case is equity, value, or exit planning for the future value of the business. My business needs to net $20 million to me and my family when I sell it. Great. Let's run scenarios of how that will become true, how we reach those strategic statements of intent. I intend to take the company here. Now, a lot of this is covered. If you use Clarity Level 1, we have a report that's actually being released here very shortly that has a tremendous amount of information in it. This is where we start educating the client. We haven't yet gotten into what-if scenarios. So Simulator fits into 3 spots in the growth drive process. I mentioned the methodology, the 3 dimensions of growth. We have a process. By the way, this is not a franchise. These are tools that are at your disposal if they make sense for you, okay? We can use Simulator with the CEO. We can use Simulator on leadership where we're getting strategic planning. We're doing strategic planning. Hey, we need to get here by my date. And then to having that plan and understanding how we're doing against our projections in the future. So it fits in several stages of the process, of the profit and value growth process. Cool. Where is it? It's inside our online tool, Growth Drives and Strategic Capacity Analysis, which is called Clarity. Why is it called Clarity? Because you use it to create total clarity about what your client needs to do to get the success they want. All right. Now, Clarity will support you along your entire client journey. And I know some of you who are on this call right now, I have a lot of experience with that. Okay. We're going to help you acquire new clients, prove your value, predict the future, differentiate yourself. No one is having this conversation. No one. There's no other tool that does the things that we are describing here. And that is how you expand your reach and impact with new clients and with your existing clients. Take Simulator, you have something to go back and talk to your existing clients about, all right? Number 1 measure of business success, transferable value. So we're going to talk a lot about what's the business worth. We're going to talk about planning the future equity value of the business. And you can use Simulator to connect with your centers of influence, with COIs, in a collaborative engagement. So if you're a wealth advisor, you can use Simulator in that conversation to increase your relevance to your business owning clients and to connect with a business advisor who can make that future help you make that future a reality. If you're a business advisor, this might be a great place to start a conversation with a COI, or sitting with a wealth advisor, insurance advisor, and their client, and having a conversation about the possible, the predictable, the future. Okay. I talked earlier about the market's perspective of transferable value. What we want to do is talk about what's the value of this asset. This is actually the value in this top right corner. This is a shot out of our range of values tool. That would be the value plus or minus that a tool like BizEquity would come up with. But we want to talk about transferable value. How much of that money can we take and give to the shareholders, and how much of it's going to go to private equity? That $12.5 million value gap is the ROI from hiring you, and is money that it's a motivator, right? That's money that's value that's been created, but that will go to private equity. So imagine you've done the range of values. Perhaps you've run an equity value planner scenario with your client. You've come up with the system has generated a pro forma talking about what the future needs to look like, how fast they'll need to grow. The multiples, this is important, the multiples that we will need to reach to deliver their intent, their goals. Now is when we jump into strategic planning and talking about what the future might look like, what the future can look like. Okay. So you need to complete level 2, the deep analysis, in order to fire up simulator to give it enough data. We're not going to do it with level 1. Level 1 is preliminary data. Level 2, we have a deep analysis where we've challenged assumptions and come up with a very granular analysis of the business. Strategic capacity drives growth and value. Write it down. Strategic capacity drives growth and value. And we're going to get into the business of predicting potential future outcomes. These aren't promises, but these are, if we do the hard work, here's what the future can look like. You jump into simulator right now. It has 2 modules. It has financial projections, and it has a strategic capacity and price simulator model. Here's what you'll see in your screen. Those of you who are currently subscribers, you're going to see this when you log in. Financial projections tab in simulator, and a strategic capacity and price tab in simulator. And it generates all sorts of fantastic calculations. And it's a projection of how past performance will look in the future. So I'm going to click this link and jump into the tool right now. All right. So here I am. You can see I'm in growthcapacity.com and I'm in simulator. Now, financial projections. This isn't a training session, guys. This is an intro. So what do we know? We know that this business we've completed level 2, the deep analysis. This business has strategic capacity of 57. Well, let's benchmark their gross revenue against their industry. This industry data is pulled from public and private sources, including the Stern School's data. Okay, so top quality data. What's inflation going to do for us? Well, we can change the inflation rate in the dashboard. So here are your key metrics. Here's basically a refresher on what you've already told us about the business. Here's this year's gross income, last year, 2 years ago, same for net income. And now we're going to start benchmarking. What's our profitability look like? Well, we have growing profitability. Cool. The industry, we are more profitable than the industry. Now, you as the advisor can start warning and saying, hey, if we're showing twice the profitability of the industry, that's great. It's going to get a lot of scrutiny. Let's also talk about this business is coming in with a strategic capacity of 57, flatline. If we do nothing to the quality of their business, and if we increase it by 10% every year, which is what we, in our experience, believe can be done with diligent execution, we can increase strategic capacity 10%, not 10 points, 10% every year. Here's where here's where you would be in 5 years. And now we want to have some other conversations. How fast are you planning on growing? Always good. We need to separate myth from reality. Planned increase in net income. How much capital would you need to double revenues? Now this, ladies and gentlemen, is part of a conversation. Okay, so that $3 million, that's part of our conversation. Where are you going to get it? to double? When will you need it? And I'll get into training later. Projections, gross revenue. Here's a 5-year projection. So you remember we have this year, last year, and 2 years ago. We're going to use those to project forward. So annualized growth is 8.7. Here's what it looks like over time. So if you keep growing at the same rate, and I'll editorialize just this once, this would be very difficult to deliver. But this is what the business would look like 5 years hence. If you grow at your manually input rate of 20%, this is what the business will look like. Now let's start thinking about reality and the possible and how much planning would need to go into making this number a reality. And how's your industry doing? Well, they are growing at 17%. And so your projection, the way you've been performing. Okay, we'll look at the charts in a sec. Income, we do the same thing. How you've been doing, how you say you're going to do, and what your industry is doing. And now we start charting this out. These are interactive. Let's get rid of the industry and say, okay, you've said you're going to grow. Your manual input rate was 20%. This is where you said you were going to be. This is where, if you continue your historic growth, imagine the conversation. Put the industry in, we'd be saying, okay, well, you're underperforming the industry. Why is that? What are they doing that you're not doing? Net income, same exact chart, or same chart. Now we get into the really interesting stuff, the meaty stuff. How would transferable value look projected over the next 5 years? And we're going to look at this from 3 perspectives. The first chart is a current or static strategic capacity. So they're at 57. They're going to stay at 57. The next is if we can do that 10% increase in strategic capacity or business quality. And then the third of the value charts, the 5th in total, these again. So we're going to do value at historic, value at manually input, and both of those at current strategic capacity and at a 10% annual increase. What will need to change, Mr. CEO? What will need to change, Madam Business Owner, in order for us to get your manually input growth rate and increase your strategic capacity? So we're starting to get some pretty big numbers, okay? Financial projections, and the other tab is strategic capacity and price. And in strategic capacity and price, we have their current strategic capacity, and this is the only thing you can change on this. We keep gross revenue and net income the same, right? And we have our pre-due diligence value. This is the value at the top end of the range of multiples. It's that upper right box. Now, let's say we move this business from 57 to 70. Okay, now same numbers. What impact will that have? Let's start talking in more sophisticated terms about transferable value. We're going to have a correction to your multiple based on your strategic capacity. All right. So here we're going to 52. It's going to take 52 points off. Now we're going to take off 41 by increasing your strategic capacity. Great, an 11-point delta. Your post due diligence multiple here is 3. Here it's 3.6. Great. We've increased it by 0.7. All right. And then the price premium or discount that would be seen from doing this work. Okay. So we've increased your value by $3.4 million. I take this business up to an 80. And now we've had a 19% improvement in the multiple, right? We've added 1.1 turns, or 1.2 turns at the deal table. And the value of our work, $6 million. Okay, so imagine this is really meant to illustrate the impact of improving strategic capacity on current revenues. Cool? Does that make sense? I hope so. I know you guys all have questions. So here we are. And by the way, this deck is available to you. Now let's take a sec and jump into leadership scoring. John Vettery, among others, a while ago said, hey, George, the 24 growth driving objectives are terrific. I work a lot with senior leadership teams, and it would be great to have a way to assign those 24, or allocate the 24 growth driving objectives amongst the senior leadership team. That's exactly what leadership does. And it scores functional area. Now, this is not a score of the performance of an individual. This is a score of the performance of a functional area. So what are the use cases? Alignment around accountabilities, right? Responsibilities. Alignment amongst the team. How do we delegate? You know, the CEO, I was just talking to one of your colleagues yesterday, dealing with a business. It's a pretty good sized business, but the CEO it happens to be a male, has his tentacles everywhere. He touches every part of the business. The business can't function, or whatever. He's got his tentacles in the business. How do we help that client delegate with accountability? What if they had a deck of cards with 24 cards in it? Which cards would they pass around the table? Leadership score can help do that. It can also create collaborative accountability, right? Okay, I'm primarily accountable for X. You have supportive accountability for X. How do we work together? Because these are gears in the business engine, right? So these are not silos. These are gears in the 24 growth driving objectives are gears in the business engine. We can use it to do a team true up. You know, when you have someone who's, I know, you know, that you might hear this. Yeah, I know that's the chief revenue officer's job, but Bill, the CEO, actually does it. We need to do a team true up. And again, getting back to delegating with accountability. Also, very useful for succession planning. And I'd be interested to hear what you guys see. So when we open this up to questions, what you guys see in the simulator and in the leadership score. What does leadership score look like? Fair question. You remember 2 weeks ago, we did a blog post on roles and accountability. And we've divided the 24 growth driving objectives into 4 functional areas: executive, finance, operations, and revenue. Now, in the tool itself, well, we divided them into 4. And let's get in there. We're going to connect each functional area with growth driving objectives. We're going to keep score of how those functional areas are performing. We'll be able to use that information to delegate and to de-risk the business succession plan and succession planning. Okay. What does it look like? All right. Let's break down. I just want to give you a feel for the areas. 1, we define the fundamental role of the executive in these areas. So we are saying, okay, the fundamental role of the CEO is to maximize shareholder value within the context of the business's vision and mission. There are differences of opinion. Some people say strategy is the fundamental role of the CEO. I would agree with a giant caveat. I think this is a better description. In fact, I know it's a better description. You're also going to be able to educate on the impact of value, right? Now, interestingly, imagine saying to your client, okay, well, you're wearing 2 hats. You're the CEO, but you're also this chief operating officer. So let's make sure that we know which hat you're wearing and what your fundamental role is with each of those hats on. What's the impact on value? When we get into an explanation, high multiples for calculating transferable business value or price, etc. Accountability. Now here we're gonna highlight which dimension each of these primary areas is and how they score. It's very, very straightforward. So here we've completed level 2. You can use leadership. We wanted to make sure that it could be used if you do a senior leadership alignment workshop. I mean, imagine having this tool layered on top of that senior leadership alignment report and might have an impact, right? We also talk about the dimensions. I'm just going to point something out here. I get a little into the weeds. You'll notice that the CEO, there's a lot of, these are level 3s. The CEO has 7 primary accountabilities. The CFO, 7. Chief Operating, 5. Chief Revenue, 5. You'll notice that the CEO is heavily weighted for the 3rd dimension. This goes to maximizing shareholder value, okay? So let's jump in and take a peek at what this looks like. It is really a score. Guys, your inputs are in the level 1 and level 2 surveys, right? And then the system does the rest. So we have executive function area, financial functional area. The fundamental role of the CFO is to maintain accurate and timely reporting on financial performance and capitalization. Their score, you'll notice that we're pulling the score from level 2. Because we have completed level 2, we're going to pull the score from this is the better data. Operations, fundamental role defined, high transferable value, price depends on. Revenue, and revenue is your chief revenue officer with primary accountabilities in these areas. You'll also notice, I'm going to scroll back up to the CEO, that we've also talking about collaborative. Now, the chiefs, these 4 chiefs and these 4 leaders have collaborative accountability for the whole, but they have a special collaborative accountability for certain areas. Okay. And we call those out. And so this is where here's the CFO might be looking to the CRO. So if we go down to the CRO, recurring revenues is right here. The CFO and the CRO would be collaborating on making sure that the sales team is continuing to bring in the easy stuff, the low-hanging fruit. That makes sense? So this is simply a score. If you want to change anything in here, you must go back to the appropriate survey, which is easy to do. Just click on the button and away you go. Good? Okay. Hope that all makes sense to you. Imagine how you would deploy Simulator, strategic capacity and price, the leadership module, and where they fit into the system. Okay. Now, this is all being included this slide because these modules are being included in the Revolution, the Evolved certification, which is C3D. Many of you have participated in that program. You carry the designation. We are giving it an evolution to make sure that we give you the opportunity to use a case to run through how to deliver this entire process that is coming soon to a community near you. We're also on the first day of the Growth Drive Summit, and throughout the summit, but especially on the first day, we're going to do a deep dive into, in the morning, there's a bonus session, right? On Monday morning, we're doing a deep dive into the clarity, strategic capacity analysis, including simulator and leadership. All right. So if this is something that interests you, if you haven't yet registered for the summit, I'd recommend that you do it. The room block is filling up. We actually yesterday we hit our for registration. Now we're going to exceed our goal, and it's going to be a great event, guys. If you're not yet a growth driver, not yet a subscriber, registering is easy. We have plans that start at, we have, of course, a freemium. Doesn't give you access to the tools we just covered. And then very easy month-to-month subscription plan starting at only $299 a month. Imagine having the power of these tools for a few $100s a month. Okay. Most popular is Growth Driver. That is far and away what most people, the level at which most people subscribe. Happy to discuss that in detail. And I really say, I'd ask, if you're not yet a subscriber, what do you have to lose? Getting started is easy. We'll give you everything you need to get up and running fast. You have a one-client ROI, right? Win a new engagement, pay for the system for a year, and we have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Folks love it. Super, our community is very engaged and thrilled with what this platform allows them to do, the success it allows them to create. So with that, I'm going to open it up to questions. I said we'd leave plenty of time for questions, and we will. And so if you have questions, please throw it in the chat and I'll unmute your mic and we'll take it from there. Makes sense? So anyone has questions? I'm here. Wow. No questions. Okay. Well, if there aren't any questions, guys, each of you will receive a copy of this recording. You will also be able to download a copy of this deck. And here we go. And away we go. How does this tool integrate with the value module? Great question, Mike. So if you think about the value. So the equity value module is generated after level 1, after the initial analysis, and it is refined when we complete the deep analysis. The reason for that is that you typically have some optimism in the initial analysis, and then when we challenge that optimism, the strategic capacity is going to go down, is going to get depressed a little, and we need to reflect that. And we actually have a much better feeling for transferable value. Okay, now value at the top end of the range of multiples and the current transferable value and the value gap are then ported into the simulator. Okay, so you'd be able to look at okay, hang on one second. So we'll be able, I'll get to those questions. That's how it works. We integrate it into the simulator and able to say, okay, well, if you're at 30 million and you need to get to 74 million, what are we going to need to change? And that's why the strategic capacity and price module exists. What do we need to get your strategic capacity to? And you can look back at the charts to see where we're going to hit their value, the value they need over time or not. Okay, Joe Lorenz, the numbers are arbitrary. I'm not sure what you mean by arbitrary, Joe. Personal opinions. Well, they're not, Joe. If I understand your question correctly, so Joe has said the numbers are arbitrary. They're personal opinions. They are, but they're not, they're quantified because we set a best practice, and you are either completely aligned with that best practice, partly, not really, or not at all. And so we're going to have a conversation as advisors about why partly true, for example, might be the case. But what we're not saying, I believe a trap that some competitive products fall into is to say, where are you on a scale of 1 to 10? Or do what EOS says and say, well, how do you feel about, what do you think the problems are? No. What is the best practice? How would the private capital markets, how would an independent outside professional view this area? And then how do you measure up? Try to make it, not trying, we make it as quantified as possible. Steve, great to see you, man. Like the leader module, has it been tested in the field yet? It was released on Monday. Short answer is no. Please test it and let me know how it works for you. And as you guys know, I'll jump on a call anytime, frankly, anytime. Sometimes at the crack of doom, sometimes late at night or on weekends. I'm here. We're all here if you want to, if you have questions. So not yet tested, brand new, but we're approaching 1,000 analyses, guys. That's exciting, right? We're approaching 1,000. And that's thanks to you and you using this out with your clients and prospects. Other questions? Any other questions? Going once? All right. Listen, fun conversation. I'm really excited. I'm excited to hear how you are using this to further your advisory goals and to help your clients achieve their intent. So, we'll send a slide. How you're using this in the field, and probably I assume this will become a topic of conversation in this week's coffee clutch. So yes, there will. Absolutely, Mike. We're preparing the training videos now and happy to get one-on-one or one-to-many to do training. We will schedule training webinars over the next few weeks. Okay. Okay, guys. Well, with that, I want to say thank you very much for your time. Hi, Sal. I just got a hello from Australia by way of Europe. So outstanding, people. Thank you very much, and I'll look forward to talking with you soon. We're committed to your success. Let us know how we can help.